This is Anne Beversdorf welcoming you to Beversdorf Briefings. We're going to be talking about the astrology of May and June, and these are interesting months indeed to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about how does astrology work? What do astrologers do? How do we figure out what's happening because of the places of the planets? And the first thing we need to talk about is the position of a planet called Uranus, which is associated often with surprises, upheavals, shocks, upsets, explosive events that have long prefaces, so to speak, like an earthquake where the tension has been building for a while. And Uranus has been most of the month of May at a degree associated with shipwrecks and tragedies. Now, this degree happens to be in Pisces, and Pisces is a degree of oil and water. And here in May of 2010, we know that there is a shipwreck-like disaster which occurred, which has caused a great tragedy having to do with oil and water. Now the question is, what's next? What's next is on May 28th, Uranus moves into a new sign in the Western zodiac, and this is Aries. At 0 degrees of Aries, Uranus is very prominent in the world, and it's still part of a very tense pattern with Saturn, which says follow the rules, and Uranus, of course, which says my way or the highway, and I'm the rebel, and hey, surprised you, didn't I? And Pluto, which says there's a power here bigger than you know, and you better not mess with it. So these are in a pretty tense little gavotte right now. And so what I think, and this is how does an astrologer work? What I think we're going to see is when Uranus moves into the sign of Aries, which is associated with impulsiveness, with precipitous action, we're going to see a lot of things happen very, very fast. On the theme, for one thing, this is, we've got to look at what is the situation going into this. One of the themes is precipitous actions having to do with how do we manage the oil crisis in the Gulf and manage the oil business. Now, this precipitous action may not be very well thought out. There may actually be some new cleanup efforts that appear to do something, make people feel better, but they're not very well thought out. The trick is that in August, in the middle of August, Uranus will go back to this shipwreck degree. So I suspect we're going to see that flailing around and taking sudden action doesn't solve our problems. However, there's more that we can say that's associated with these degrees, and this is on a personal level. Because if you have planets in your chart that are associated with the end of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, or the beginning of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, your chart is going to be very impacted by these energies this summer. So for your personal life, my advice to you would be aware that you're likely to be far more reactive than normal. So somebody bumps into you, and instead of saying, oh, excuse me, or they saying, excuse me, you're going, yeah, what are you doing? What's it? So you're going to be very reactive if you've got planets at this degree. If you don't, you may be seeing other people be very reactive. We can see this on a larger social scale. We can see a lot of reactivism in the social milieu. But if it's you yourself, be aware that this reactivity isn't going to gain you anything. And when you start feeling outrage, be aware that the only thing that you can control is yourself. If you can control yourself, things will go well. If you can't control yourself, particularly if you want a protracted fight, you're guaranteed to lose. So that's the biggest warning for anybody who has degrees at these things, or when you recognize the energy as it comes on you. The other thing that you may find is you are reactive in a sense that says, I will not do what you tell me to do. Somebody says, well, in order to do this, you have to fill out these 5 forms and turn in these 3 pieces of paper, and you're going, that's absurd. I shouldn't have to do that to get this. This is my right, and you'll get reactive in that way. It's the rebel in full flower, in a very precipitous manner, where the reaction comes before you even think about it. So again, that's a little harder to control because it just pops out, But when you see it pop out, you can always retrace your steps and say, okay, I'll fill out the dang forms, I'll give you the paperwork you need, or to the boss, yeah, I'll do this, I know it's not in my job description, but you're the boss, I'll do it. You may not like it, but it will make things a lot smoother for you if you're aware that these are the energies that we're dancing with. So, the specific dates that we need to be looking for is May 28th, which is when Uranus enters Aries. On the 31st, Neptune, which is the ruler of water and oil, goes retrograde. So we're going to go back and revisit this, which is not exactly a surprise. You don't need an astrologer to tell you that we're going to revisit this oil disaster, but we will be, and it is opposite Mars, so we're going to be revisiting it with anger and activity, two Mars words. And then on June 6th, Jupiter, it's a benefic planet, but it makes things bigger. It will also enter Aries, and it'll sit there along with Uranus. So let's just magnify and multiply the reactivity a little bit. June 6th. Then June 12th, we have a new moon, and it squares Saturn. So it's going to be a, okay, we better get serious, we better slow down kind of energy. That's the energy associated with June 12th. And then June 26th, this is big, there is a lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse, whenever you have an eclipse, it's kind of like sticking your head inside of the bell while it rings. It makes that energy just keep going boing, 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 all around. And the energy that you're sticking your head in the bell with is the Pluto-Uranus-Saturn energy. The ones that we've been talking about. The how dare they, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to jump to conclusions. I'm being stopped by a power bigger than I am. Those are the energies that are going to be magnified by the eclipse of June 26th. So right around that day, that's 4 degrees of Capricorn, right around that day, be aware that if you've got these energies in your chart, you need to be far more self-aware than usual. And it'll just be kind of interesting to watch what goes on in the world, because world leaders or countries that have these degrees prominent are going to show up in the news in a rather prominent way. So there is May, there is June. I'm so glad you could be with us today, and if you'd like to learn more, you can go to www.stariel.com.